everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm here to share with you the Pick-a-Stick Challenge Artist Trading Card Challenge for the month of December 2018. I'm starting out with a tag that had some jelly printing on it, and I cut it down into a 3.5 by 2.5 inch artist trading card size. The first step for the challenge is pen. And so I'm getting out some India ink and a dip pen to write on my card. And of course, as you can see, I spilled the ink. So now I have a new piece of blue collage paper, which is fine. But yeah, these things happen. I left it in so you could see it. I'm writing a poem onto my card using my dip pen. This poem was written by someone named CA Guilfoyle, who resides in Portland, Oregon, as well as Tucson, Arizona. And this poem really speaks to me about the duality of how I feel about growing up in Oregon and now living in Arizona. I love the desert. I love the smell of it. I love the look of it, the colors. But sometimes I really, really crave water. I love the ocean. I love to swim. When I'm not feeling well, I take baths because it makes me feel better. So I'm definitely a water person, but I also love the desert. And this poem really seems to be, that's pretty much what it's saying. It says, cerulean blue, the mad rippling, how I crave water, sometimes even green in spring. The melting of me, smooth stones skipping blue pools, swimming to feel an ocean inside the storm clouds collide, unhinged from fire's dream, a torrent, a waterfall of holy water evaporating into steam. I think that's a great poem. And poetry is another form of art that I really enjoy. So I've written that on my card to satisfy both the word pool and the word pen, because the word pool was in that poem as well as cerulean blue, which is the color that is for this challenge, which that poem just kind of went through everything that I needed pretty much. Sorry, my throat's a little weird today. So that color right there, that paint is cerulean blue, and I'm just adding a little bit of softening of the words. And in fact, they end up pretty much not showing at all, but it doesn't really matter. The whole idea behind doing an artistic exercise like this, like any mixed media project, is to just complete it, to continue to play until you feel happy about it. And I was having fun with my finger painting of those different colors, and that made me happy. So that's what it's about. So the next and the third and final step was bumpy. So I decided to use some modeling paste. This is the light molding paste from Golden, and it dries really quickly, so I like to use it because I'm an impatient person. And that stencil you see is got 9 little ATC size stencils on it. It was designed by Seth Apter for Stencil Girl. But I did not want the word B on there. I didn't want the words. I just wanted it to be random shapes. These shapes kind of reminded me of pipes, which water run through pipes. This whole card is about kind of almost about worshiping water, basically. So I thought it was a cool design, but I didn't want the letters on there. So I scraped them off with a palette knife, and then I went back in again with the same stencil using other areas of the stencil. You can just use one little section of a stencil. You don't have to use the whole thing. And so I wanted to fill in those blank spaces. So I'm using different sections of the stencil to fill in where those letters used to be, and you can't even really tell that it wasn't meant to be that way, in my opinion. It looks pretty much the same to me, only now you don't see these big letters in there. Seth likes to use letters in his stuff, but I didn't want it on this one. So then I gave it a dry, and as you dry this stuff, if you don't let it dry naturally, you can kind of puff it up with the heat. It kind of turns into bubbles, kind of. So it's very bumpy, and that satisfies that third challenge. I've also got cerulean blue on there in a couple different ways, so it's all good. Now I'm just going to mess with it some more. It's too white. So I decided to use some Marabu mixed media spray. I need to take all my sprayers and soak them because none of them are working at this point. It's very frustrating, sprayers. And it doesn't matter if it's the permanent ones like these or if it's the water-based ones like, the Tattered Angels one. They all do this. They all get gunked up. And no matter what method I choose to try to solve that problem, I never seem to be able to solve it. So I just need to take those and I'll make some hot water with Simple Green in it, or Murphy's oil soap, one of those, and just let them soak and then clean them out that way. And I'll do that eventually. It's just, one of those things, one of those maintenance things you have to do, like clean your brayer, I had trimmed this card down just a little bit so that I could mount it onto a blue background. I like the way border around something looks. Just makes me feel better about it. I don't know why. So I still thought it needed a little bit more color, so I'm using some Inca Gold gilding wax type stuff. This is a brown gold color, which kind of looks like copper or bronze. Rubbing it over those high places where the bumpy part of the stencil, because it was the molding paste. It's bumped up, so I can just let my finger glide over the top of it to add some of that. I still thought I still needed some more colors, splattered it with a little bit of green. Now it's too blue. This is how things go, and this is how you should let things go. Intuitively, you should work on your project until you feel happy with it. And that's what I'm doing in this case. An ATC can be a very simple, quick process, or it can be something like this where it's an exercise in making yourself feel happy about how it came out. Yeah. Sometimes when you're not feeling it, when you're not in the mood to do art, your mojo's lost, you've got, things going on in your life. It's a good thing to take a little project like this and just mess with it until you're happy. Just mess with it. This took me probably an hour and a half, just putting on different colors, putting on different this and that, you know. Now I wanted something darker on one side. Later I wanted something a little bit lighter. This is the process that we go through to express what we wanted to express in our project. Some more blue, a little bit darker color. These are liquid. They're the fluid paints, the media fluid paint from Decoart. And I'm spritzing them with water a little bit to make them move. It's fun to drip and dribble things through a bumpy surface like this because it gets down in the cracks and grooves and it just starts to look really cool. Kind of, I don't know, grungy or aged looking. It's just a fun thing to do. Adding some more gilding wax again, the Inca Gold. It's beeswax mixed with metallic pigment is what it is. A few splatters. Didn't like those. It's too harsh. You see. So I decided to finally glue this thing on. My background, that's just a piece of blue 80-pound cardstock paper. It's looking pretty good. Decided maybe I needed a little bit more light. So I put a drop of titanium white on there and let that dribble through a little bit. And I'm finally pretty happy with it. It's got composition. It's got the colors I was looking for. Most of the letters in the background are lost, but they are still making a pattern in the background, even though it's not obvious what they are. So then I decided to print the poem again on my computer because now I've got this card with this beautiful, interesting background and no focal point. So I'm like, what am I going to put as a focal point? I can't really draw on it on this point at this point because it's too bumpy. So I decided to print this out and trim it down. Then I wanted it to be a little bit rough and torn up, not so pristine. So I decided to crumple it and tear it and scrape the edges with my scissors to try to make it look a little bit more, I don't know, beat up and more like it fit with the environment of the card, because it, the card is very layery and crumply and crusty and whatever. It was too bright, so I decided to spritz it on the back with a couple different sprays, just to change the color a little bit. The yellow was a little bit too yellow, but it mellowed out as it dried. And I'm just spritzing it on the back. Doesn't make it very wet. And so I'm getting pretty happy with that. I decided to stick that on with some fluid matte medium with my fingers and get it crumpled down in the bumpiness of the card with my fingers, making sure that it's not new and pristine looking. Then I had some letters laying around. I have these Tim Holtz dies that are like a long strip. And when you cut out the long strip, you have a lot of leftover letters. And they're still laying on my desk. I haven't cleaned my studio in so long. It's such a mess. It's a disaster. But I don't have time right now. So I picked some of the letters that said water, because this card is all about water, about loving water and reveling in the idea of water. So I put those on. They were being a little bit bratty. First I tried to stick them on with a glue stick, but it didn't work very well. So I went to some gel matte medium, sticking them down with a brush, which means I can kind of like stab them, poke at them to press them down and get them good and stuck. And then I go back over and press them again with a cloth to make sure everything's stuck down really well. And then I have these resin pieces. Sometimes I will take art resin and I will pour it over a canvas and make a hard shell over it. But when you do that, the excess drips off. And if you use a silicone mat underneath, you can peel those drips off and save them. And these were in a little container on my desk, and they look like water drops. So I decided to glue those on. I'm using some Mod Podge Dimensional Magic, which is kind of like Crystal Effects, or one of those, clear, shiny glues. And I just glued on the water drops over my card, and that was it for the card. Is it perfect? Is it the best thing I've ever made? Maybe not, but I like it. I like the background. I think that it conveys what I meant for it to convey. Oh, I did add some shading, of course, because it wouldn't be me if I didn't shade it. So I'm using a Pet Pen in Indigo. That's a India ink type of a pen, to just add a little bit of shading here and there and yon. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this project. If you have, leave it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or question below. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can come over and join Pick a Stick Challenge Facebook group. Link in the description box below. But make sure that you answer the questions if you do that. So that's it for the December Pick a Stick Challenge Artist Trading Card. Bye-bye.